And we are now thrilled to be joined by Congressman Colin Allred, who is running for the U.S. Senate seat in Texas against Ted Cruz, who I know folks watching are well aware of. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us at such a busy time in your campaign cycle.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate you all.
No, we're really excited to have you on, and again, grateful for the time. So tell us before we kind of get into it, how are you feeling? How is it feeling on the ground in your absolutely massive and so consequential state?
It feels really good. I know that I feel this in a lot of my elections, but now I'm feeling it even more in this one. I know we're breaking through when, just kind of ordinary working folks pause what they're doing, to come over and talk to me about the campaign and how like they're so excited. And, there's a guy who was helping us park the car the other day, and he was like, "I'm going to contribute to your campaign." I was like, "It's like, okay. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, we can't go through a building without everyone who's working in that building stopping what they're doing." So it feels really good, and I think we've built something that Texans can be proud of. We've had a very broad kind of coalition here, where they're long-term and long-time and respected Republicans who've gotten involved with this campaign here in Texas, and I think it's something that we can all feel like this is a positive for us, and that we'll be going against Ted Cruz and turning the page and doing something that'll be great for our state.
It's great. Glad to hear about the energy on the ground. There's also been some other really incredible indicators of your momentum this past week. We saw the Cook political report moved your race, I think, to lean R, which is in the right direction, away from where it was as more of a toss-up state. And also, you had some incredible third quarter fundraising numbers. Is that right?
Yeah, so we raised, I guess, $30 million in the
Wow,
last quarter, which I think is
incredible.
almost
Just last
hard to
quarter.
imagine. Uh, yeah, yeah, and this is going to be the most expensive Senate race in Texas history. But I think what I see in that is that our average donation is $35, and it's ordinary folks giving what they can. It's an act of hope. It's folks from all over. And I think it's a signal about how ready we are in Texas to move on from Ted Cruz. Also, how folks around the country recognize what a threat he is to our democracy. And so it's exciting, but we have to use that because we have a massive state. We're 3 times the size of Michigan. We have more people here in my area in DFW than we do in all of Arizona. I mean, so I get the numbers are big because the state is big, and it has to be that way.
Absolutely.
I don't know if our viewers know, but Ted Cruz only won by a little bit more than 2 points last time. Joe Biden came within 5 points, right, of Trump in 2020. I mean, this is a lean red state. This is not a red state. It's not, I don't know that it's a purple state yet, Congressman, but we're getting there. And part of my question, I guess my biggest question for you is what's happening with young people? Because as you know, you have a lot of non-voters in your state
Yeah.
for there's a whole bunch of reasons we can get into. But has the combination of your candidacy and Kamala Harris coming onto the top of ticket sort of woken up younger people who may be available to you that perhaps are more engaged in the election now? What are you seeing in terms of how the two of you have kind of woken up? There is a huge number of younger African American and Latino voters in the state that are not regular habitual voters. How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, well, before I came to Congress, Simon, you probably know I was a voting rights lawyer, and I often tell folks that Texas is not a red state. We've been a non-voting state, and that's true. It's also even more true, to your point, among young folks. And listen, I think that we have to be honest and say that we've had an increase in energy since Kamala got to the top of the ticket, and that's good because we need that. We've been organizing on the ground on our universities and trying to get young people out to vote here for building this over the course of this campaign coming up to this point. We launched our kind of Young Texans for Allred effort a few weeks ago that's really focused on them as well. But let's also talk about what's happening in Texas, which is that we're experiencing a near total ban on abortion. And this is most applicable in many ways and most readily on the mind of, in many cases, young people. And when I talk to them, this is something that just comes up all the time. This is obviously a point of discussion, I think all over our campuses in every young person's life. I've talked to young women who've told me how they have a plan to leave the state with their friends if they have to. I mean, these are the conversations that are going on here in Texas. And this is on Ted Cruz. And this is his abortion ban. He is uniquely responsible for it here in Texas because of his career of working towards this, the federal level, putting judges on the courts to do this, but also at the state level, backing extreme legislators, calling for and cheering on the Dobbs decision. So that's a huge motivator as well. But I know this, that every group of our voters in Texas is a group we have to treat with the respect to ask them for the vote, to try and make sure that we are responding to what the issues are that are in their lives. And for us here in Texas, we still need to have more housing, bring down the cost of higher education. I talked to a lot of young people who are worried about gun violence, about the future of the environment. These are all things that Ted Cruz is on the wrong side of and that I want to get to work on.
Yeah, and it's for folks who haven't paid such close attention to Texas, maybe who have looked at other battleground states. It really has been sort of the petri dish to test out all of the Project 2025 policies that Trump would put in place if he were elected. And to your point, Ted Cruz has been instrumental in helping Texas be that place to be able to advance those egregious policies that they would take nationally. And clearly, with the signs of the momentum that you're building on the ground in this state and the potential here, Ted Cruz is and should be pretty scared. And I think we actually have a clip where he went on, what I think we would all assume would be a very friendly show for him with Sean Hannity just the other day. So let's roll that clip.
I don't know why, but every time you run for re-election, you are maybe the second most hated man behind Donald Trump in politics. They're gunning for you big time, politically speaking.
Well, listen, I wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I mean, the second most hated man in politics. That's who you... Feels like a little bit of a gift, Congressman, no?
He's earned it. I mean, what can I say? Sometimes I'll begin my talks by talking about all the things that his Republican colleagues have said about him. That John Boehner called him Lucifer, and that Mitt Romney has called him a dangerous demagogue, and that Lindsey Graham joked about if he was murdered on the Senate floor that they'd never get a conviction. These are the folks who are on his side. So he has earned it. This is also what happens when you go around and in every interaction you have, you come across as one of the most objectionable people someone has ever met in their life, that you are one of the most selfish people to ever be in public life, that you are somebody who gets in the way of your colleagues ever trying to get anything done. And then when you have to run for re-election and you're in a tough election year, all of a sudden you now want to try and pretend like you're a responsible legislator. And I think, for those of us who are in Congress and we see that, we roll our eyes, but we also then think, this isn't the way it should be, and this is just not how it should be. Since that last election where he won by 2 points, what has he done? Well, he's gone to Cancun when the lights went out. He's tried to overturn an American presidential election. He was the architect in the Senate of that attempt, and he hid in a supply closet when the mob came while I was ready to fight the mob. And he's responsible for this abortion ban that we have here in Texas. And just earlier this year, he took down the toughest border security bill in a generation in a state that we would have benefited more from it than any other state in the country. I mean, he's earned it, and we're going to beat him. And when we do, I think it's going to surprise a lot of folks around the country, and that's okay. I'm used to surprising people with my elections. Nobody thought I'd win in 2018 either. And the Texans, I think, is a place where things can happen quickly. And we've arrived at the, I think, appropriate decision that it's time to turn the page on Ted Cruz.
Congressman, can you talk about, I think one of the most interesting things that we saw was that Liz Cheney came out aggressively for you. I mean, not just, did she sign a letter or anything, right? She made a video. I mean, talk about that. I mean, that was really a remarkable moment in the campaign.
Yeah, if you told me, 7 years ago when I first ran for Congress that I'd be campaigning for Senate with Liz Cheney, I would have thought that something had gone horribly wrong. And I guess you could maybe say that is what happened. But we were friends in the Congress and before she left, and we were friends before January 6th. But then on January 6th, we had a shared experience that I think solidified that, and we've remained pretty close since then. And I think that what her support is about is, yes, our friendship, but also that she understands that we cannot have someone who is as much of a danger to our republic as Ted Cruz still in the United States Senate. That there are certain things that if you do when you're in public office, when you're given the high honor and privilege of representing an entire state, that if you use that high honor and privilege to undermine the foundations of our democracy, that you cannot then come back into office. Or if you do, then you are going to continue to be a threat, but also we'll get more of that. And I like to tell folks that, we used to say the NFL was a copycat league. And, what does that mean? It means that if you see a play that works one week, you'll see it the next week. Well, politics and public service is like that too, where if something works and you get reelected, then you'll probably see more of that. But if you stop it, then you won't see it again. And so part of beating Ted Cruz, I think, is also about protecting our Constitution and our democracy. And I'm proud to have the support of real conservatives like Liz Cheney, who's a real conservative. But we also have a number of actual conservatives here in Texas who've gotten on board. And that's what I mean. It's exciting for us. And this is the way I wanted to run this campaign, one that could be about Texas versus someone who's all about himself. And that's how we're going to beat Ted Cruz. I think it's also how we can change our politics here in Texas.
Absolutely. The contrast between the absolute cynicism and the worst of politics that Ted Cruz represents and the campaign that you've built on the ground and the momentum, and then all the way up to the top of the ticket with what we have with Harris Walls, it could be really profound because I don't believe that a Republican has ever won the presidential election without winning Texas, right? So that would change everything, and it would really surprise the hell out of a lot of people. I think. And that'll be in large part, I think, possible because of the campaign that you're running. So we're really grateful for it. Simon, do you have any other final questions?
No, I just want to say good luck. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, Congressman, and you have really done an extraordinary job. You've surprised people. I mean, it was so easy to write off this race. $30 million is an incredible achievement. You're leading now, I think, in 2 separate polls, right, in the last 10 days. What you've done is incredible. And I'm just really proud of you. And if there's any final words you have for our audience about how they can help you if they want to get involved in your campaign.
Yeah, I'll just say, please go to colinallred.com. Obviously donate what you can. We're a huge state, but if you have the capacity, come to Texas. If you're in Texas, be a part of our efforts to turn out the vote. We are in a situation where there is no shortage of jobs to do in terms of helping us get the vote out. And to me, it's one of the most rewarding things of any election. I've done this for some time, even before I ever ran for office. I think that this phase of elections where you're just getting out the vote is incredibly rewarding for the people themselves who are doing it, because you're giving someone the empowerment to be involved in their democracy and to go in a different direction and to basically say, hey, listen, it's voting time. Here's your polling place. Here's when you can go. Here's what you need. And you're empowering them. And as somebody who comes from a single parent household where my mom was working more than one job oftentimes, I know how important these kind of little reminders can be, getting a phone call, getting a door knock. And so it's really great. So go to colinallred.com, get involved with us in any way you can, and let's beat Ted Cruz, and let's make sure that Texas gets a senator who cares about all 30 million of us.
Good luck. Thank you so much. Bring it home.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
I hope next time we see you, we call you Senator.
Yeah, let's do it.